What's up, guys? Welcome back to Nightlife. Today we at the National Rail Museum. I'm gonna put a few shots of the railway, and there's gonna be a talk in the video as well. If you want to skip the talk, just click over here, and there's a link in the description for their website and everything like that. So I'm just with my mate James over here. He's also stays with me and Ariel, and Ariel's got the camera today. So we're just gonna have fun chilling, and then we're gonna go for a coffee or something. So yeah, stay tuned for more.
Fuckers.
Sugar. I'm going to tell you about how a steam locomotive works, hopefully. It's a very basic talk, so everybody here should be able to go away with some knowledge of how it works. And if you're looking for like a really in-depth talk, you're in the wrong place. Although I could point you to a few people who probably chew your ear off after a while. We're going to be looking at this locomotive because it's been sectioned so you can see inside it. This is called Ellerman Lines. It's a Merchant Navy class locomotive. It was built in 1949 by British Railways, which is when railways were nationalised. It was actually designed by Oliver Bullard of the Southern Railway. He was the last chief mechanical engineer of the Southern Railway before the railways were nationalised. And it didn't always look like it does now. It looks a bit like this in 1953, but when it was built it was more box shaped, and you can see a picture of that on the other side. And there were a couple of design features that were a little bit eccentric, and Oliver Bullard had experimented a little bit with the Merchant Navy class. They get the names after shipping lines, incidentally. But in 1953, British Railways made it a little bit more standard. They changed it about a bit, point out some of the features they added to it. And also, when it came to the museum in 1975, we decided to cut parts out of it so you can actually see into it. A bit like the rocket behind you. Not a working model, but it helps us to really get to grips with the inside of a locomotive. If you looked at Mallard, you'd not think it would be the same as in there, but actually inside Mallard they were roughly the same sort of configuration with the tubes and things like that. So gives you a bit of an idea. At one point there's actually a working model. You could use some electrics to get some of the pistons moving backwards and forwards and things like that. Unfortunately it's not working at the moment, so you've just got this talk, but hopefully I'll live up to it a little bit. And let's start then, shall we, with this end here, with the tender. This vehicle here, when it's full, weighs 53 tonnes. That's the same as that locomotive plus the tender on the turntable. So it's a pretty heavy section of the locomotive. You've got 6,000 gallons of water in this blue section down here, and the coal, which you've got 5 tonnes of, is the top section up here. And there's a bit of a slope, so that through the natural motion of the locomotive going along, the coal rolls down to the lip, so it's easier for the fireman to shovel it into the firebox. He would actually have a very long rake as well to rake down the coal when you're getting towards the end of the coal. The water is put in through here by a tap. The locomotive goes under a tap. There's a green tap on the other side of the turntable, you might have seen it. It's from 1920. They might have had like a bit of a leather scoop as well on the top, or funnel I suppose what you call it. And some locomotives, like the Mallard, I'll be using that as an example throughout the talk, they took on water as they were going along, because they had a scoop feature. So the fireman would wind down the scoop when they were coming up to about a 600-yard long trough, which would be fitted into the track and full of rainwater or runoff or specifically filled with water, and it would be about 4 of these tracks wide, 4 of these pieces of wood wide in between the 2 rails. And you'd slow down to about 30 miles an hour, and the scoop would cut through the water and scoop it up into the tender. And you could take on about 3,000 gallons of water in about 30 seconds, and then you could continue on your journey. So when Mallard was doing runs pulling the Elizabethan or perhaps the Coronation or the Silver Jubilee up and down the East Coast Main Line, it would take on water 6 times on its 6-hour journey, perhaps 5 or 6 times, because locomotives use a lot of water. Ellerman Lines uses about 50 gallons of water a minute, which is about a bathtub size of water, and it's 320 pints is 40 gallons. So it's quite a lot of water. The coal then, that's in the top, that's the other thing you need to power your locomotive. You'd only have 5 tons as opposed to the 8 tons that Mallard would carry, because this would be going a shorter distance. So this would operate in the southern region, so south of London, and it would usually run between London and Dover, although not limited to that line. And because it's a shorter distance, it doesn't need as much coal to fulfill that. In days gone by, when you look at things like Rocket and even Copper Knob here, locomotives would pull up beside a platform, and it might be a man's job to shovel the coal into the tender, which might take a while with a tender this size. So what they decided is they started to have automatic refueling stations where you've got a big hopper full of coal, and there are wagons lifted up the side of the hopper and tipped in, and then the locomotive goes underneath the hopper and the coal's poured down through a chute into the top of the tender there. You can see a picture of that if you go around past 1008, which is the black locomotive there. If you keep going around 2500, that LMS one just near there, there is some stuff on hoppers and things like that. So that's your tender then. That's for your fuel, for your water and your coal, which you use to make steam. So let's move down to the cab, which is the next bit we're going to look at. Here's the cab, this section here. This is the part where the driver and the fireman are. They're the 2 crewmen who are piloting or operating the locomotive. There's this section here, this piece of metal here. This is the actual footplate, because the whole area here is often referred to as the footplate. When you're stepping onto the locomotive, you're stepping onto the footplate. And that separates the 2 vehicles, or it covers the separation between the 2 vehicles. A bit of metal there and there's a bit of metal here. On Mallard, there's a big piece of metal that's attached to the locomotive. On this one, there's a little bit on either side. That's because the tender and the locomotive are 2 separate vehicles. So that's something to remember, because the fireman's got quite a difficult job. He's got to shovel the coal from the lip of the tender there, that bit there. He's got to shovel it into the firebox, through the firebox door, which is here. And he's got to shovel about a ton of coal an hour to keep the locomotive going on average. That's about the size of a small family car, or an elephant is roughly a ton. So it's quite a lot of coal. In addition to that, there's 2 vehicles, so they're moving around a little bit and they're swaying under their own motion. And also it'll be 45 degrees in here because of the heat of the firebox and all the metal surrounding. So it's going to be like a sauna in there. On some locomotives, you can definitely tell it's going to be hot in there. If you look at Duchess of Hamilton with its streamlined metal casing all the way around the cab, that's going to conduct the heat, isn't it? And it's going to make it very difficult for the fireman to do his job. But no matter, they had firemen for over 100 years, so they know that they could actually do it. And the fireman's other job is to get the water from the tender into the boiler. So how is he going to do that? Well, he uses this here, the steam injector. This mixes steam with the water. The steam imparts its kinetic energy into the water, and then it's shot through increasingly narrow cones in a tube, which would have run all the way up to number 8 up there, the 2 pieces of black metal hanging off the side. They're called clack valves. The water goes in, can't come out, and you need that speed and the pressure and the power which the steam will give you, because the boiler pressure in there is 280 psi, which is over 18 times it's 20 times, pretty much 20 times the atmospheric pressure that we're feeling now. So the steam in there and the water in there is trying to escape whenever it can. So you need a lot of force to get the fresh water in there. Of course, when you put more water in, that water's not hot, so it's going to drop the pressure of the boiler, so you're going to have to put more coal in. If you went to Mallard, you'd actually be able to see the steam injector taps, the little red wheels in the cab, and you'd also be able to see handles for allowing the water to come through here in the first place, and also some other controls. So you can't quite see in here because quite a few of them have been removed. But there are lots of locomotives around the museum, and you can see into their cabs. You can get an idea of what was going on in there. So the fireman is making the steam by using the coal and the water and putting them into the locomotive. And then the driver is using that steam to make the locomotive go forwards or backwards. So he'll be sitting on the other side over there. The fireman gets a seat as well, but most of the time he's going to be on his feet. The driver's job, he'll be pulling on what's called the regulator. That's essentially like an accelerator in a car. when you set a regulator like this, it's going to stay in its position, it's going to be fixed, or fixed like this. It's a bar that you move up and down. In a car, when you lift your foot off the accelerator, the pedal comes up, but a regulator stays stuck in the position you've set it in. And the more you open up the regulator, the faster you go. These other controls are the reverser, which is essentially a gearing system. I put the locomotive into reverse, and it also changes some of the valves down there, which I'll move on to at the end. And there's also the brake, which is obviously quite important to have a brake on a locomotive that weighs over 150 tons. You want to stop it at some point. Element Lines has 2 brake pads for each of its driving wheels, so 6 brakes for its 6 driving wheels. 12 brakes for its 6 driving wheels. And if you looked at Mallard, you'd only see 6 brakes, 1 pad for each wheel. Mallard from 75 miles an hour with carriages would take about 1.5 miles to stop. Element Lines with its additional brakes about 1.25 miles. So you've got to plan ahead where you want to stop, be looking at stations, things like that. People often say, how can they see out of here? It's such a tiny window. You might stick the head out of the window at the side here to see where they're going, to be looking for their signals. If you're a driver on a locomotive like this, a passenger express locomotive, you'll have been working on the railway for 30-35 years, since you're a 14-year-old boy when you started as a cleaner, and you've made your way through the ranks through being a fireman, being a goods driver, being a passenger driver, to being a passenger express driver. And so you're using all that experience and intuition to be able to drive and operate a locomotive of this size and this speed. And you'd have to sign off a card saying you knew the routes off by heart, and if there was a problem, then your name's against that, so they'll be able to see who to blame and who to reprimand for that. And it really was like you're learning on the job through sort of symbiosis, because you've got the fireman who wants to become a driver learning from the driver who's already driving the locomotive. And you've got different levels, as I was saying, and they're called chains. So if you've got, they're called links within a chain. So when you've got to the top, you've got a top link driver, and you've got quite a lot of prestige, it's quite a privilege, and it's a good goal to aim towards. And the privilege and the prestige would actually be more of an incentive than the pay, which you might expect is not going to be as much really as you might think. You can see a little bit more about famous drivers like William or Bill Sparshart in the Flying Scotsman exhibit we have in the warehouse. There's plenty on him in there. And you can imagine if you're driving the Flying Scotsman or the Flying Scotsman service, there's lots of prestige surrounding it. So there you go, they're the 2 men in here. The driver's the captain of the ship. The fireman will listen to what he's got to say. If the driver doesn't like you, he might draw a line of chalk down the middle of the cab and tell you to stay on your side. And you can imagine it's going to get quite difficult if you're supposed to be talking to each other to try and pilot the train, but it doesn't happen that much. Let's move down to the firebox, so if you can all stay where you are really, as long as you can see.
Say bye. He's coming back.
Yeah.
He's going here. Ramona! Oh, hello! Bless you. Bye. This is like London. Look, this one. Manolo, Carlos, Alberto, they have a good time there in the water.
Pato.
These small paticos.
Patitos.
So let me make you a video now. Look, so